If you want to spare lots of typing, then you bloody bastard! Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Crashing Informatics, and today we will play a bit with JDK 16 and in particular with the record keyword. So here we go. I'm using Gitpod, and in Gitpod it's rather easy to get a new JDK installed. You just type SDK install Java and you have to give the version, and the version I'm playing around with is, let's see. It is 16EA32-open. The record keyword has been around for several years since JDK 14. It was a preview feature, and in 15 it still was a preview feature, which means you could play around with it when you switched on the enable preview switch at the compiler level. And it was a bit risky because the syntax was changing and the implementation was changing, so you couldn't use it in production use. As JDK 16 comes nearer, it is planned to be released in March, and actually this is only 6 weeks to go from now. It's in ramp down phase actually, so this means it is stable. And stable means we can use it now. You can write now production code with JDK 16 with all the features that are inside it and not marked as preview anymore. How great is that? So let's look inside some code and hack around with JDK 16's records. The first thing you will recognize when playing around with records is how concise your code is. Look at this line, for example. It's a single code line just split into two lines in the editor, but in effect this single line provides you not only a class, it provides you a constructor, it provides you 3 internal members, 3 getters, a hash code method, an equals method, and a toString method. All this is covered by this single code line, so the equivalent of all that you can see here. This is the same code without a record. Imagine what happens when you have to extend this class by another member. Let's call it int, I don't know, A. So I have to type a real lot here and there. And then I need a getter. I have to put it here. So the keyboard is not typing. And I have to write the implementation. Here it is. Then I have to make up my mind about the implementation of the hashcode method. You can start a war about that. Then you have to write the equals method. You can start a war about that too. So this is A is the other one dot A, and I have to extend to string, so it is a good citizen. So we're done, and what you see is I don't see my constructor anymore, I don't see my internals anymore. I have to scroll around a lot, and it's really easy to do exactly the same by using the record keyword. I just go here, that's it. Also measure the time that I needed to write that. Second, a record is always immutable. Once a record is given a value in the constructor, you can only read it. There is only a getter, but there is no setter. So if you try to write a setter, then you will end up with a compiler failure. Let's try it. As you can see, there is no variable x that you can override because it says it is final. This is really brilliant, and because you cannot extend this record class and you cannot make it extend another class, it's brilliantly closed and it's well suited for passing data around unchanged. But records are also brilliant because they make the coding so much more fun. Because you don't need a magic IDE that has some wizards to create classes for you or refactor them for you. You don't need to use code generators. If you're using code generators, there's always the same problem. What are you doing when you have to extend your class by a new member? You have to regenerate the code and you will lose all your manual changes. Or you keep the manual changes and cannot regenerate the code, so you have to manually extend it again. So you end up with all that code you have seen, but you don't want that code. So records are superior to IDE magic and to code generation. Fact number 4. A record is not only a source code structure, it's actually a structure inside of the runtime also. The Java runtime knows about the fact that a record actually is a record, and you can even ask for that when using reflections. So you can see here we're asking a variable for its class and ask the class, are you a record? And the test said yes, passed. So this one is a record. By the way, a record is not smaller than an equivalent class. We can see that here. The record is 200 bytes larger than the class, because actually it does a bit more than the class that I have shown you. For example, it extends Java lang record. Neither is a record in any way faster than a class, or at least I have not measured it at all. I could imagine that since records are so well suited for passing data around since they are immutable, maybe they work together well with the value objects or inline types nowadays called that are provided by Project Valhalla in future. If you never heard about Project Valhalla or inline types or value objects, look at the link in the video description. This is really great and I look forward to get it. Actually, what it's about is the following. If you have a classic class, then you have a reference, and the reference points to somewhere on the heap. And on the heap you have the actual modifiable data. You can even replace the data on the heap. Or you can point to nothing. You always keep the left side and you have additionally the right side. Whenever you want the right side, you have to reroute over the left side. With an int or another primitive data type, you only have the left side. You never have the right side. So you can access your data in half the time and with half the memory. Wouldn't it be great if records also become inline types or value objects? That would be great, because then we have double speed, half the memory, and the benefit of records. To sum up, records are really great. Records are here in only 6 weeks from now. Adopt them as soon as possible. It not only spares a lot of typing, it makes your code more readable, more concise. It spares tooling and the time to execute tooling. And in future, because the runtime is aware that a record is a record, it can further optimize it in some way. Or records will become valued objects or inline types and execute in double speed and with half memory. So this is very promising feature. Look into records now, grab JDK 16. I hope you had fun watching this video, and I would be really glad if you give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel to never miss a new episode. And as always, stay safe and party on! If you want to spare lots of typing, then record sets are the way to go. Okay, we will do it like that. If you want to spare lots of typing, then you bloody bastard! If you want to spare lots of typing, then